So not as good as Red Rising, huh? The staple, the big boy in fantasy doesn't win out against Hunger Games in space.
Dune is a great book. Red Rising is better. I'm just gonna say. Oh.
Welcome everyone to the Tune Around podcast. My name is Richard. Today we're doing.
What about me?
Screw you.
Oh, God.
We're doing Dune, baby. Dune.
You know Richard's excited.
It's mine.
For audio-only listeners, Richard has his laptop out just to show you he has not cared about a single podcast episode ever in the history of this podcast until today.
I can wing everything else. I need my notes for Dune.
You had to get technology out.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going against the precepts of Dune and Frank Herbert's worlds. I'm sorry, Paul.
Now, we're going to start this as we always do. The first 10-ish minutes will be spoiler-free. Dune's very popular, I imagine. So if you're trying to be convinced to read it, we'll give a little pitch. We'll talk about it and talk about some background on Dune, and then we'll get into a full spoiler talk, which, Rich, I know you're a little bit antsy for.
I am. We've done now like a couple episodes of Dune, and I'm so excited to actually be talking about it. Full spoilers. We get to go over everything.
Hell yeah. Now, first thing, with some info on Dune, we're not saying anything revolutionary that other people haven't said about Dune.
No, not really.
So there's a couple things to pinpoint. This is Frank Herbert's novel, came out in the 1960s. He worked on this for 6 years, doing a ton of research. A little bit of backstory is his son can remember his dad just going into his study, writing a bunch, coming out, and he was too young to understand what he was doing. And he has all these fond memories of Frank Herbert just going in there, coming out, writing just this, what became a masterpiece. And one thing I think you might not have known, Rich, and I really want your reaction on this, okay?
Yeah.
Did you know that Tolkien hates Dune?
I did know that.
You Dune? You Dune did?
I Dune did that.
I Dune didn't know that.
I Dune did
So
know.
you saw that too?
Yes, I did.
I have the quote from Tolkien on what his thoughts were about Dune itself. So Tolkien was given a letter. And Tolkien's Lord of the Rings came out in the 1954, 4, 5, and 6, I think. It was mid-50s. And Dune was a contemporary. This came out just a decade later. So someone sent him the Dune book. Mm-hmm. And Tolkien, in response, wrote a letter saying to this person who said, hey, you should read Dune. Like, it's this new big popular book. And Tolkien responded to him saying, it is impossible for an author still writing to be fair to another author working along the same lines. At least I find it so. In fact, I dislike Dune with some intensity. And in that unfortunate case, it is much the best and fairest to another author to keep silent and refuse to comment. Would you like me to return the book as I already have one, or hand it on?
Respectable, and also, I get it. To be fair, Dune is not for everyone. But for its people, for its fans, it's close to perfection.
Why do you think Tolkien in particular doesn't like it? I have an idea, but I want to see some unfiltered thoughts on your end.
Unfiltered thoughts, I think part of it has to do with prose. I think there's a significant prose difference with Dune and Tolkien, and it's probably not to his taste. I think Dune is really well written, but it's unique, and you got to get used to it. So I think there's that part. Then there's the known aspect of Tolkien not liking allegory. And a lot of Dune is really politically motivated and probably a bit more on the heavy side, maybe to Tolkien, that he noticed all the political messaging of it. And probably doesn't like it as much, where he'd rather it just be about the story rather than the message.
That's actually a good take, or interesting take, because I didn't, when I was thinking about this, why Tolkien didn't like it, that didn't come into mind for me. First thing that came into mind for me was Lord of the Rings is a very hopeful and idealistic and honor and what the ideal person should be and what good triumphs evil. It and all these, the thematic, positive. Yeah, thematically speaking, is so positive.
It's a hopeful message of what humans can be, and Dune is very much a pessimistic version or pessimistic worldview of what human society is like and what human nature is.
And some could say realistic, because looking at looking at Tolkien could be seeing this as an idealist versus a realist, or an optimist versus a pessimist, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
But Tolkien, this is just guessing, by the way, because
we only got the letter, and that's about it.
Tolkien respectfully didn't do what Richard does all the time and went, no, here's exactly why this author should kill it. No, this is exactly why the author's awful. You didn't. You and Tolkien are very different in temperament.
I'm just saying, like, it's going to be an interesting time when we actually have a published book.
Yeah.
Eventually, like, whenever we have, not even published, let's not be presumptuous here. Whenever we have a book written and we try to get it published, it's going to be an interesting precedent if people will be able to respond to us like we respond to them. It's going to be a humbling moment for us.
I think we'll also have a review also trashing the book. That's
the thing. That would be fun.
In hindsight,
I get to do a solo review on this channel of your book and vice versa.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That'd be so fun. So the other person just has to sit there and take it.
Yes. They sit there and they get hammered for a whole hour.
So, Rich, then what are your spoiler-free thoughts of Dune before we get into this long discussion? You knew that about Tolkien. What else did you find in your research of Dune? Because you've reread this now. This is your second read.
Yeah, this is my second read, and I loved it more on the second read. I really enjoyed it. So, my first read of the book was, I think I've mentioned this before, I was confused about 50% of the way in. I was like, I didn't know what
was going on.
It was just hard for me to read. I was really struggling understanding, piecing it all together. And then at that point, I started getting into the groove of the writing style, and I really enjoyed the rest of it. Okay. And then after finishing, I went, I really enjoyed that in hindsight. Now I enjoyed it from page one on, and it was great. I loved the first half way more than I did in the first time I read it. As for little things I found out about the book, I found that apparently the actual inspiration for Arrakis and the dunes itself is the Oregon Dunes near Florence, Oregon.
Oh,
it's an actual dune with and currently today, the government is still trying. The ecological departments are still trying to restore the dunes to its natural state. There's been not native plants and things that have kind of infected the dunes, and they're trying to restore it. But Frank Herbert went there and he saw it, and it's the inspiration for the setting of Dune.
Okay, got it.
Little thing I found, just wanted to share that before we get into things.
I should also mention the Lord of the Rings thing. I found that out because Scott and Raikusen reached out. And we're talking about that with
cool.
They were messaging us and going, "Hey, you should cover this when you talk about Dune." So definitely want to credit before I go on.
Yeah.
So you found out that about Dune, and just a quick, not too much because people kind of know in the general pop culture whether they like Dune or not. But why do you think if someone hasn't made the move yet, if someone's going Dune, I'll get to it. I know it's a staple, but I got other stuff to read. Why should they prioritize it?
If you're finding yourself reading sci-fi more often than fantasy, that you really like a lot of the modern sci-fi, I think Dune is an important thing to be able to read so you understand where a lot of tropes and a lot of where the genre has been moved to. After Dune, a lot of sci-fi has moved in that similar direction, has a lot of influence that not only direct references, but just the style and the type of stories that are being told in the sci-fi genre. It's as important as, if you're a big fantasy reader, probably should give Lord of the Rings a try. Maybe it's not for everyone, maybe it's not for you, but you should give it a try. Same thing if you're really into sci-fi, you should probably give Dune a try.
It's like studying physics and then ignoring Einstein.
Exactly.
You gotta give some credit.
You gotta give it some credit.
Yeah.
But no, it is the pinnacle, I think, of just this weird amalgamation of sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I'll say, after your first read, you told me some stuff about Dune, and I knew things in, again, pop culture about Dune. If you're going in and you haven't read Dune, this is just for those people, because then we're going to get into spoilers. Mm-hmm. But I really disagreed with one of the things you said in the past. Maybe your opinion changed. Maybe your opinion changed, but I kind of had this idea going into Dune that the characters were just kind of these people that you don't care too much about. I got the general concept from how you were talking about it. Maybe expand on that after this thought.
Sure.
But yeah. So I had this general idea that it's not character focused. It's going to be just a bunch of spice and a bunch of world stuff, which it is. Trust us. But the thing that surprised me the most is no, it wasn't your typical hero's journey of a Darrow of Lycos or a Kaladin, or it wasn't a character that you're just rooting for is the wrong term, but going into it thinking this is, yeah, woo. No, but the characters, especially Paul, the main character, a lot of people read it and just are apathetic. I read it and was insanely interested in Paul and some of the other side characters in here. No, it's not as if they had a big, insane arc that you're going to walk away with and just go, wow, look at that arc. But they're more characters that actually, when we get into this, are realized, and there are certain moments in the book that just made me go, oh yeah, I love this.
I think now my opinion has changed a bit from that first reading, but I do remember telling you well over a year ago of the characters may not be the most compelling, but they are some of the most interesting. Paul is not a character I'm rooting for particularly, but I'm incredibly fascinated by him. Yeah. I think that's how I put it, is he's a fascinating character, not a compelling character.
I agree with that, so we don't disagree then.
Yeah, I did find him far more compelling on the second read, though.
Okay.
I enjoyed all the characters way more on the second read because I was already inculcated into the writing style.
Right.
So, but I was always, I'm a Jessica simp personally, even from the first read.
Why is that? What is it about Jessica?
I love Jessica. She's the best. Which talks to the movie. Let's talk about that a little later. But for the book, I fell in love with her character specifically, and I loved her journey. Especially, I think she had one of the more dynamic journeys in the book, where Paul doesn't, he changes, but it's not much of an arc.
Okay.
If you get what I mean.
I follow, yeah. This book, I don't think if you're a character first, you might not love this book as much, but it's still worth it to see if you will, because we had our patron book of the month was Dune, and we covered this, and one of our patrons, Alexia, said this exactly. She said, it was interesting because we're in the characters' heads the whole time in Dune, but she still had no clue what was going on. So but of all of the patrons that reviewed this with us, I don't think anyone disliked it. One person was about it, but everyone liked it.
Yeah, this is it's strange. I don't find too many people that actually dislike Dune. Like, I have people that go like, maybe it's not for me, but they kind of like it. Mm-hmm. They don't love it, but they like it. I think this is a fairly safe bet that most people like Dune. If they can read the whole thing, some people they want to read a shorter book, and this is kind of an intimidating read, but most people do like it. And hey, we covered it on our book club. If you're interested in supporting us and you want to join our book club, exclusive Discord, talk books every month. This month, at the end of March, we're doing The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence.
Oh yeah,
good book so far. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And yeah, go ahead and click the link in the description below, and you can help support us.
Oh yeah, so Rich, let's get to the juice. What'd you rate Dune out of 10? Let's hear this high rating. Everyone brace for an actual rating from Richard that is not sub 8.
I know. 9.35 out of 10.
Wow.
This is close to perfection of the literary scale.
You're close to perfection, doesn't even get a mid 9. It's still got to be a little bit below the 9.5.
You get to above 9 in my book. That's
you're basically like the Lisa Nagib.
Lisa
Nagib. Well, we're getting a little bit of movie references in there because Stilgar in the movie is very different from the books. We'll get into stuff. But I gave Dune a great 8.4 out of 10.
So not as good as Red Rising, huh? The staple, the big boy in fantasy doesn't win out against Hunger Games in space.
Dune is a great book. Red Rising is better. I'm just gonna say,
gross.
If you're comparing the two,
the fact that you're allowed to say that on our channel is disgusting.
Which author, Pierce Brown or Frank Herbert?
Pierce Brown would be offended that you said that.
I'm just saying which one's more influential to my life.
Fair.
Now, which one's more influential to everything and everywhere else? I think Frank Herbert has a slight edge.
Maybe a slight, yeah.
Tiny slight, but if Frank Herbert could see Red Rising today.
If Pierce Brown could hear your words today, he would disagree with
This is all bait to get Pierce Brown to hear this. And
that is true.
That's all it is.
Pierce Brown, I'm on your side. Dune is better than your books. It's fine. You accept it. I accept it. We both understand.
Pierce, buddy, I will defend you. Don't you worry. If I ever talk to Pierce Brown one day and he's going, listen, Dune is better. Pierce, you don't even understand your books. Okay, let me.
You don't understand.
You don't get it. You like Darrow's literally me.
I'm literally him.
So. Look, we both love Dune. It's
we
great.
both love Dune.
We're both up there, okay?
I'm just gonna stay in my happy place. I'm not gonna think about your incredibly ignorant opinions. It's fine.
Let's get down and dirty, okay?
All right.
Spoiler time.
Spoiler time. This is your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Going right into it.
Okay, Rich, what did you give Emotional Impact out of 10?
A 9 out of 10.
Fantastic.
Fantastic score. Yep.
8 out of 10.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now, why did you think you'd rate it lower than mine? Like, what were some things that maybe didn't hit as much? Like, what part of the book?
Yes. Okay. First, let's. I kind of want to go positive, then a little.
Oh, I always like going negative.
Yeah. Okay.
I assume everything positive.
You want me to start negative?
Yeah. See, I'm under the assumption that I'm going to list the negatives, and anything I didn't say were my positives.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Else was positive.
I focus on the negatives, and if there weren't that many, great book.
Yeah.
Who cares about what positive things to say?
Now, okay, looking at Dune as a whole, the emotions that it pulled and the message it's getting across. Why? Oh, you really want me to go negative first?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We could actually.
Let's. I think we'll curve around. We'll talk about some things there. But Dune as a whole, what really landed with me was the suspension of disbelief and the absolute mesmerization into the world, and the characters were actually interesting, and thematically everything connects, and everything whether the plot, all the things that we read, all the things that we enjoy and try to look at, analyze in a book, all interconnect in this. And some of the most satisfying moments for me, what I was anticipating going into Dune was that, okay, it's going to be a bunch of world and it's going to be essentially an encyclopedia. I was kind of going in thinking I was going to be reading Tolkien's extended Middle Earth, the
Silmarillion.
The Silmarillion. I'm going, okay, it's a lot of world. Rich likes this. It's probably pretentious.
Hey, it is the case. Yeah, it is. It's a little pretentious.
But still, with that being the case, the emotion for me where it pulled was Paul as a character. And there's a specific scene, which we'll get into, but I just want to brush on it a little bit. But that tent scene with Paul, the tent scene with Paul in Dune at the end of part 1, I believe.
End of part 1.
End of part 1, where the Bene Gesserit and Jessica are built up to just this force to be reckoned with. The Bene Gesserit have been planning for is it 80 generations? Something like that. They've been planning and plotting, and you see the power that they have, and the voice, and the control, and how smart they are, and tactful they are. And after Paul's father dies, after Leto dies, they're in the tent, and Jessica and Paul are both reacting to all this. And Paul, for some reason, is not grieving. He notices that it's weird, and he's just going, why can't I feel what is going on with me right now? My father just died. Why am I thinking? Why am I trying to think logic right now? Okay, I'll try to grieve later. Logic. He's thinking. He's using his brain. And Jessica, in the meantime, his mom, this Bene Gesserit that's been built up. Oh my God, this Bene Gesserit is in the tent and figuring stuff out that Paul has figured out along. He'd already put together a bunch of this. He'd already put together things, and he's already beyond what Jessica was thinking of. And so Jessica's going, oh, Paul, this, and connecting the dots. And Paul's just thinking in his head going, this woman is so slow. First off, I related to that because I think that of you a lot. But beyond the relatability with me and Paul, it was just, he's thinking about his mother and the Bene Gesserit. Just, why is she so slow? What?
Yeah.
And so the two things of, one, him being emotionally distant, not able to grieve for his father. And secondly, just this anti-hero-esque twistedness, but also you're both rooting for him. You want the Atreides to win, but also Paul has this weird thing going on. And so for me, I was just really surprised that as I was reading Dune, I thought Paul was really interesting, and the world connected completely, which we'll get into world. But that is why for me the emotion's high. Why it's not the 10 for me is probably more because it's more toward your liking. So when we're just giving our subjective emotion rating, and that's what I want to hear from you is I love me good worlds, but I read for character first, and I read for getting me immersed in the character journey. And so anyways, that's why it's not my favorite thing in the world. But from your perspective, I could see why it's a 9 out of 10. And tell me why before you give your negatives, before you go all negative on me.
To give you my
just why is this a staple? Why is this just? Oh God, I love this.
Some of the most interesting messages and that exists in fiction. Dune, just I'm constantly thinking about all this. So several messages that this book juggles just in one book is the danger of course. I think primary is the dangers of following a charismatic leader or a charismatic like messiah type character, the dangers of that, the cycle of de-evolution of civilization, the power of history and story, and then the control of vice and virtue, and how both are tools to be like both are functional tools in managing people. And I love, so this is on the second read. Like I understood it a little bit in the first read. In the second read, I just really honed in on how the House Atreides has control over virtue, that they delay gratification, they inspire loyalty, they're honest to a degree. I know they're still noble houses and all this, but they have gained their power through virtue, and that people respect them, and his soldiers work hard, and that the Atreides inspire loyalty from their people, and therefore are incredibly powerful and stand up to the emperor, or a threat to the emperor. Versus, I'm gonna get the name wrong. I'm so sorry. The Harkonnens. Did I get it right?
Harkonnen, yeah.
Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Thank God. House Harkonnen is a controller of vice constantly throughout the whole book. The Baron is looking at individuals, and you see him thinking of, oh, what is the vice that controls this individual?
Yeah.
And that's how he goes through. So one of the better points I saw was Thufir, the Atreides Mentat. Yep. How does the Baron control Thufir? Mm-hmm. Because Thufir, his vice is prejudice. And and the Baron recognizes his vice of prejudice and uses that to control him, and works.
Great point.
I love that.
Great point.
He's able to see individuals' vice. The reason why he can't control the Fremen is they really don't have vice, like, at all. Nothing.
Their voices, they're too loyal.
They're too loyal, and they're too good at delaying gratification, that they are there for the mission and the good of the society rather than themselves. Mm-hmm. They're willing to be self-sacrificial.
They don't think of themselves as an individual, right? They think of themselves as a group. It's
the pinnacle of, okay, I know that the Fremen have their other like negative qualities, but in terms of personal growth, and the idea is like Harkonnens can't actually control them. And I loved that aspect of it, of like, it's the Atreides to a more sinister, harder degree. I mean, the Atreides had it a little bit. The Fremen have it in spades. And I love that the Atreides are the ones able to control the Fremen. As that is something that really ruminated with me a lot.
Because you said on your second read, a lot of this you're picking up on, and a lot of this you're thinking of a lot more, and also the first 50% didn't confuse you. So you're actually able to read it and see more of what Frank Herbert was getting across. You know, I got a little aside. I hate that I like this book.
You do? Why do you hate it?
You know why I hate that I like it? It's just I get a little secret behind the scenes. I get a teensy bit of joy when we talk about Wheel of Time, and I just go,
you see the pain in me.
Because it gives me a little bit of joy that I actually dislike something you love so much. And I was going into Dune just thinking like, this is going to be another Wheel of Time. And unfortunately, I like it. But here's the thing: Dune is one of these books that I could see somebody it not being your cup of tea, because it's not a casual read. It's not a simple read. It's not a turn your brain off read. And it's very much, I had to, when before I was reading it in sessions, like get in the mood for Dune. I could have very easily gone, as much as we joke about Red Rising, I could have very easily gone in my head going, oh, I just want action and I want fun and da-da-da-da. But I before reading it, I had to mentally check and go, okay, this is not for the quick, jerky, fun, another verb other than jerky I should have used, but actiony, yeah.
High, fast paced. I actually think the reason why Dune is as successful as it is.
Tell me.
Is all these things we're talking about, the messages and mainly that Paul is he is not your hero. He is he's a tragic main character, and that you shouldn't, like, there's the pitfalls of being the Messiah. That's
right.
kind of it's really a pessimistic book. However, if you read it surface level, you're kind of cheering, like going, yeah, Paul, take down the Harkonnens and you become the emperor and huzzah. And like, Paul's so badass and he kicks the butt and he's all cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people read Dune that way, of just Paul is awesome. He's the best. He's the hero.
Yeah.
And which is not the point of the book. But it has that subtle message. You could read it that surface level. And I think that's why a lot of people really enjoyed it. Is the first book it has that surface level action, but if you just take a little bit more time to think about it, there's plenty of moments where you go, Paul's going down a path that's probably not going to be that great. There's some darker moments, and it's just moments in the beginning of a terrible purpose.
Yeah, I do want to say, Scott sent this to us, our lawyer friend, Scott, who saw us through the podcast. Thanks for sending this. Hey, Scott. And he sent this audio clip of Frank Herbert. Mm-hmm. And I did not, there's this almost misconception that Frank Herbert wrote Messiah to correct Dune.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the case, because Herbert was talking about how in Dune he wanted to end the book the way he did. He ended it purposefully where he still had these hero qualities, which differs from where the movie ended, but the movie makes it very clear and goes into Messiah. But where Dune ends, he ends it purposefully with more hopeful look on it, but he plants the seeds really well of going, okay, this isn't you can read the book and go, this isn't your typical hero, but he won. I'm happy.
Well, the thing is, Paul is not a villain. In the most recent movie, it's kind of going the direction of you think Paul is going to be the villain. Or at the very least, it makes it kind of clear that Paul eventually will be the villain. In the book, there's some good reason why Paul wins. Like, it's not straight out negative. A lot of the things you understand why he does what he does.
Good intentions.
For good reasons. Yeah. And I like that a lot more, the subtlety of it.
Yeah. I would say because you went over good messages for Dune, which one pulled you the most when you're rereading this, especially of this is your emotional pull into the book. So you love the messages, but what about that? What moment maybe that connected you to the story?
The first read was I really honed in on civilization devolving.
Okay.
And I really loved all the little moments, and we'll talk about this in Worldbuilding, I just find hilariously funny. That works so well. But the example of this is a galactic empire and it's devolved to feudalism. Like, it's super far future, and like we have all these lasers and starships, but people fight with swords and shields. I love that duality of
almost contradictory, right?
And then also like, how did we regress?
But it also makes sense. It's not just there for absurdity's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I liked that aspect. And then the Bene Gesserit talking about all the legends and the history and the myths that they propagate.
Yeah.
That was really enjoyable to me. Like I said, I was saying the control of vice versus virtue really stuck with me this read around.
Yeah.
But also the power of history and story and how that influences people. So enjoying Princess Irulan's stories and trying to
Those were some of the best bits.
Oh, it's the best quotes of the entire book. I'm little spoiler for me. Like, we're going over dialogue, dialogue and prose, and have some quotes and all. I'm just realizing, like, all the good quotes were Princess Irulan. All of them. Like, nearly every single one. But
you want a sneak peek? Oh, we'll wait till prose.
We'll wait till
prose.
Okay. But what do you think the intended emotion that Frank Herbert was trying to get at? Because we're talking about how we actually felt. What did you think he intended you to feel in this book?
One, immersed. He was definitely going for, I'm going to, more so than even other books, because I think some fantasies or sci-fi are going for your character or your plot, or they have a great idea and go from that. I think Frank Herbert was very much, the first thought I have is he and Tolkien, that's why I think you get your staples of Dune and Lord of the Rings, where they're starting with the world, or they're starting with an immersion unlike other books. Other books, there's world building in a lot. Stormlight, I love the world building as equally as I love Dunes for different reasons. I know you'll disagree.
I would disagree,
I know
but
for different reasons,
really
I love
still.
Sanderson's world building than I like Dunes. So again, it's fantasy and there's magic and so forth. I like them for different reasons. But when I think of Sanderson's books, I'm always thinking the characters, or when I'm thinking of something, it's something else comes up. But with Dune, immersion was number one, and what he wanted to get across was, I feel that him writing this was. He was touching on a lot of subjects like religion and politics, and not more so in the modern day, because I guess you could look at comparisons to today, but he was making you think about go ahead.
The good quote for it.
Yeah.
From the book. When religion and politics travel in the same cart, the writers believe nothing can stand in their way. Their movements become headlong, faster and faster and faster. They put aside all thoughts of obstacles and forget the precipice does not show itself to the man in a blind rush until it's too late.
Oh.
Princess Roland, The Tales of Muad'Dib.
Oh.
But yes.
He's saying a lot about that.
I really think that's kind of the whole story.
Religion
that
and politics.
Quote right there is a majority of what the book's about.
Yeah, and to pull that off, you have to create another world that is, to effectively pull off something as serious as religion, about looking at all this geopolitics, you have to completely lose yourself in a world like this. So what the hell is that? All right, back to the episode. Just to let you know, that cutscene that just happened, we were mid-talking, and the PC just made...
I've never heard that sound before.
It made a scary noise. It was like the Fremen coming to attack, and we're going, we made a mistake. It was insane.
Oh, it was the worms coming.
The worms, yes. The Fremen on the worms were coming to attack. Okay, so Rich, what do you think about that message, and what do you think Frank Herbert was trying to get across as well? You agree with that?
I do agree.
Yeah.
Part of the thing that the three general feelings I think Frank Herbert wants us to feel is shock and awe of Paul. Like, when Paul is on screen, like, you should feel a little bit like Jessica feels, of like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What's going on with Paul? Oh my God, he's kind of above the rest of us. Then also with a slow feeling of dread. So with that shock and awe comes the dread of he's moving further and further away from humanity. Okay. Key moments in that being him with Gurney. Gurney by the end of Gurney realizing like normally Atreides would be more concerned with people, not equipment. A little bit of that change of like, where is he going down? That's the dread coming through. I think you're also supposed to feel sympathy for Paul walking down this path of like, I don't know what else he should do.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like an inevitable position. And that what he's doing is right, but also it's going to lead to terrible consequence. And I think you're supposed to feel sympathy for him.
Yeah.
And overall with not just sympathy for him, I think you're supposed to feel a little bit of sympathy for the galaxy of what Paul is bringing upon the rest of humanity.
Right.
And last, I think it's not just Paul specifically, but a feeling of tragedy and inevitability in the cycle and stagnation of the entire civilization.
Yep.
They're just supposed to feel like, my God, nothing's going to change. Nothing can change. We're stuck.
Interesting. In book one, you felt that?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't feel that as much in the book. Maybe in the whole, because I haven't read on from Dune book one so far. Either. But I think
it's mainly the Bene Gesserit pushing things along in their way. It's always just this cycle of manipulation and death constantly. And I just feel like it's inevitable that this kind of cycle is going to continue. That's kind of how I felt with the book, especially with you go into the world building aspect of it, of how where the civilization is now, where it was before, and it's like, are we just going to go back there again? Another genocide? Like, oh, great.
Right.
We just got done with the last one.
I did feel, I think it ended a little bit more hopeful than that, at least in book 1. I didn't feel that cyclical thing as much. I almost feel like Paul, in a sense, defeated the Bene Gesserit at the end of book 1 and cut into the cycle a bit. You've read book 2 though, so
Nope.
You have not. Okay, so from book 1, I didn't get that as much, but I see what you mean of the regardless of this small win, the ominous where you know it's going to go afterward. Is that what you mean?
It's not tied to any specific faction. It's just that human nature. That human nature will always bring up the manipulation and oppression, and that when the Bene Gesserit fall, it'll just be another group. Now it's Paul. It doesn't matter but humans act the way they do. They're constantly warring with each other. They're getting in each other's way. Stagnation of any kind of progress in human civilization.
Okay.
Feel like even Paul's plan ultimately, what is that actually good? Like, is that any different than the stagnation that he kind of already exists? Like, okay, now he's emperor and
I think
now he's in charge.
I do think the hope of it. So yeah, it has those undertones, but I think at least with the end of book 1, there's that bit of changing Dune and the water and what Keen's plan was, and that bit of hope that comes underneath it all. I don't think it goes entirely into the cyclical nature of things. I think Paul actually does. Hey, whether he changes for the better or worse, or whether the cycle is going to continue in the future, it ends in the note here where I went, okay, Dune is not going to be the same, and hopefully in a good way. But with that being said, it doesn't mean all woes are fixed, and it means this could still go in a dark direction. But I think, especially with the Keen subplot and the hope for Dune itself, and Paul getting that win, even if that win comes with an asterisk, it's less cyberpunk depressing, and it's more on it really toes that line really well, where I didn't get too much of like everything's over or everything's hopeful. Whereas maybe Tolkien got what you're saying more.
Hey,
I don't know.
On the first read, I was far more hopeful. On the second read, I was
saw the subtlety more.
Yeah, okay. I just kind of looked at it of more, what is Frank Herbert saying about human nature? And that I saw as far more pessimistic of like,
Got it.
You know, you whack-a-mole, you take down one group of Bene Gesserit, another something like that's going to take its place. Paul will become the new manipulator.
I'll just think about it more because you've obviously read it more, and
only one more.
But still, no. If we're making that a rule, if the person read it more trumps an opinion, it means it's correct. I'll just read Wheel of Time twice, and then I'll suffer the second time.
You have to read it 3 times. You understand? That,
you've read it twice.
I'm reading it the second time through with you,
Rich. You
get that, right? I'm like,
a real tear is forming in my eye just thinking about reading that damn series the second time. I can't do it, Rich. I can't do it.
It hurt. It does hurt me.
Oh, man. You know
it
what?
hurts me that you don't understand.
You call my Red Rising a Hunger Games hack. I'm calling Dune a Wheel of Time a Dune hack.
It is. It totally is. It's Lord of the Rings.
The Aiel are basically
Fremen,
and the Aes Sedai are basically
the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah,
100%. Oh no, yeah. He took very obvious inspirations. It was like, hey, what if Dune and Lord of the Rings was like?
And by the way, I am joking. Like, it's okay to take inspirations. It just hurts me when you make fun of Red Rising's inspirations. Because you say it in a mean tone.
I mean it in a mean tone.
Character time?
I think it's character time.
What'd you give characters?
We spent a lot on.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Characters out of 10.
A 9.25.
Holy crap. I gotta say I disagree with that. I gave it a 7.5. I want to hear why. I want to hear why you love this so much. Hey, I prefaced this earlier saying that the characters I really did enjoy, but why 9+? That's a lot.
Because I loved every character, and every character served a vital purpose. To me, like, it's...
Oh, yeah, name every character.
I'm terrible. I'm doing my best.
You ever see that online where just people, oh, you love it? Name them.
Yeah, no, like, Oh, you love Iron Maiden? Name every song.
But what you love about the characters?
So starting off with Paul Atreides, like, actually, we're going to be talking about Paul more often together.
Yeah.
But the stuff that maybe falls through the cracks is, my love of Jessica's character and her growth is going from Bene Gesserit to more mother figure.
Got it.
And like maybe the Reverend Mother thing. But mainly trying to make sure the Kwisatz Haderach survives, and by the end, making sure that Paul survives. And survives himself, really, and what he's turning into.
Yeah.
Love that. I love her whole mission and her relationship with Duke Leto. Love Duke Leto himself, of like this noble leader, but ultimately flawed in his conviction to do really hard things. And sometimes the sacrifices needed that Paul kind of shows. A terrible world, terrible things must be done. Duke Leto is not capable of that, and that's why he dies. We go into a bunch of the other characters. Chani being a tether for Paul's humanity, and the sign of what the right path would be for his own personal sake. Maybe not the best thing for the universe or the galaxy, whatever have you. Love that.
So did you like Chani better in the book than the movie?
I'm equal on it. I think she serves a really good purpose for she serves best purpose in the book for what the story is trying to get across with Paul.
Okay.
She's the anchor. In the movie, she's not supposed to be the anchor. She's supposed to be the audience's POV, really, of how you're supposed to look at Paul. Mm-hmm. And so they're serving different purposes, and Paul's arc is a little different in both mediums. So she had to change. Okay. If she was the same in the movie as she was in the book, it wouldn't work for the characterization of Paul in the movie.
Okay. I follow.
If one changes, both have to change. Mm-hmm. Stilgar, from friend to sycophant. I really love that change.
That
is really important.
That is great, actually.
It's a good moment.
I forget how much I like that, actually.
The thing is, that moment only works because of the proper setup of his character. It's not just a side character that kind of turns sycophant. It's an actual friend and someone who has challenged Paul in the past and guided him. And you start seeing that with more and more. But Stilgar seems like a person with the most backbone, and where all of the Duke's men always kind of had that, like, they are the Duke's man. Like, they're not really free individuals. They do look up to Paul pretty immediately.
Yeah.
And even though Paul's friendly with some of them, even like Gurney, still he's the Duke's son.
Yep.
Stilgar was a friend and a strong leader.
And he lost a friend and gained a follower.
Yeah.
Oh.
Love that.
Oh.
Alia Atreides, the freaky, awesome, oh my God. Probably one of my favorite parts of the book is just her character, her introduction of how weird she is. Yeah. How she became present in the womb of like a fully formed adult mind before she was even born, and how freaky she is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Great world building. I loved it. Thufir Hawat. God, I'm saying it all wrong.
I think you got it. Hawat, yeah.
Thufir Hawat.
Yeah.
We talked about it briefly of him being ultimately a very good mentat and one of the better mentats in the universe, according to the book and all these things. A loyal servant to the Duke. However, his vice, the one vice that mentats really shouldn't have. They should be mental supercomputers.
Yep.
But no, he has prejudice, and that inkling of prejudice is what the Baron was able to use before the revolt, before the betrayal, able to poison Thufir against the Duke and Jessica, and it ultimately, when the Duke is dead, is able to control Thufir afterward by his prejudice. Love that. Gurney as well. There's him being the sign of a reminder for what the Duke should be, and how noble and good the Duke was, and how different Paul is, and how a dark path he's going down. Love that. Liet Kynes, one of the most beautiful deaths that I've ever read, and I think my favorite sequence in the book of him dying dying in his home, the dunes that were his home, killing him, and that he's been trying to save and trying to create back to a paradise, and that's the thing that kills him as he's hallucinating his father. And the ranting lessons of him trying. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's cinematic.
It's cinematic in the book. And that is honestly the biggest crime the movies did, is the fact that they didn't give me Kynes' death proper. And how he died in movies is just depressing. Leah, whatever. Leah Kynes died. I was disappointed in that. That was probably my biggest disappointment. But I could go on. The Barons, how wonderful they are as characters. They are actually very effective antagonists.
Yeah.
They're smart in their own way, but then blinded by their vices. Just how the Fremen and other people can be blinded by virtue, and they're looking up to their messiah. Like, the characters work so well and so realized. I love all of them. Even the smallest of characters, I have to give it above a 9.
You know what? I'm going to say this, Rich. You put a good case. I may butt mine up a little bit.
Okay.
And that means my total rating would probably go. Hey, everybody listen at home. Mm-hmm. This is official. So you can I'm going to maybe give it an 8.5 out of 10 for Dune.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is anybody who was on the fence, don't worry. Austin now approves. Anybody that was like, this Dune thing, I don't know, this little artsy
Austin's
book,
now giving an 8.5. That means it's good to go.
I think you guys are allowed to read it now. That's all I'm saying. That's a great point on all the characters. And we were talking about before of my expectations for the characters going in was that I wouldn't like them or that I thought was all right. And so me giving above that, I was very impressed with them. And Paul, you skipped around Paul because we were going to end up talking about him.
I just wanted to get off that. I didn't even talk about all of the side characters. I think were very moving. And I skipped Paul, obviously, because that's the one we should talk about the most.
Yeah.
But that's the big surprise for me, especially on the second read through of, oh my God, all of the side characters are so important.
Serve their role for sure.
They serve their role, but also intriguing in their own right. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have their own arcs. They're changed by their environment. It's a complete understanding of them. Mm-hmm. They're not just cogs in the machine. They are their own people. I love that.
That makes a ton of sense. And why do you love Paul so much? We touched on it a little bit before, but is that juxtaposition?
Juxtaposition.
Thank you. The juxtaposition between Paul, his emotions and his logic, and how you see that change as the book goes on.
Oh, sure. I mean, hey, on one hand, you're like, oh, Paul's badass. He's so cool. But then you're also going, oh, that's real sad. Mm-hmm. Especially moments like where his son dies and how he logics his way out of it and is so unfeeling about his own son's death is, I think, probably the biggest sign of like Paul's going down the wrong path. Probably. Like if you don't clue in by then of like something's wrong with Paul. So I love that character aspect of him.
Yeah. Sorry, I had my own thoughts. Never mind. It wouldn't even make sense.
No, go.
Like it was like a 5-layer deep laugh. You know what I mean? Like I was thinking of that, then I was thinking of you, then I was thinking back to that. It was just funny. No, I was thinking.
Are you calling me a sociopath?
Here's the thing. Okay, for those of us who've seen all of our episodes, there was an episode on the personality thing, the test, where I was asking your personality. I remember this rant you went on of when, like, I hate when people cry. Right. And I was just thinking, like, man, that's why you love Paul, you little psychopath. I know you went into a reason that you hate crying when it's uncontrolled, and you just like when it's
uncontrolled crying for a not justifiable reason.
Yeah. So obviously, like, oh no, my banana fell on the ground. No, like I get what you're saying, but
it grosses me out.
I just know how much you despise crying to an extent, and so just 5-layer deeps. I was going like, oh Paul, all Rich finds like, and then I went back to Paul, and then just I thought of you in a situation, and it just was funny to me. That's why I didn't want to explain.
You're right. I aspire to be Paul.
That's what I'm saying. You and Paul are like this,
like that. That's why I identified so much with him. But no, his biggest, if we want to just kind of go over the faults, wants, and needs of him, faults being the burden he carries of seeing the past and the present as the same time, past, present, and future, and he can't identify his own present.
Yeah, and the flaw of not being able to be emotional.
Yeah. And being able to feel anything. And if he can see all these possible futures and he doesn't really understand where he is, at least he's kind of confused.
Yeah.
How can he really mourn person's death in the present if he already knows their death in the future and can see them in the past and live their past? It's really hard to mourn their loss when, for Paul, they're still there. He's experienced their death and he experiences their life at the same time. What loss is there? It's no different to Paul. That disconnects him from other people. He wants to be like his father, but realizes he can't. He wants to avoid mass death in his name, but realizes that he may have to avoid an even worse future. I think he wants to connect with others again, but I think that's kind of quickly discounted. He drops that want a little bit pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He needs to balance his position with his identity. That's probably the right thing for him to do. Whether it's right for the galaxy is, don't really know. He needs to avoid the pitfalls of martyrdom.
Right. And I actually found, I do know why you love Jessica so much, because her flaws, wants, needs, and what she needs to learn by the end is, from the very get-go, you see this in Jessica. Sorry to pinpoint this back to her, but I think it connects with what you're saying here, where Jessica and Paul's relationship. Jessica looks at him as, so her and Duke Leto actually had this amazing relationship that you see when we get into plot and the whole not the subversion, but the subplot of the betrayal. And we see how Leto trusts Jessica. People are trying to throw him off, and the Harkonnens are implanting the seed to distrust Jessica.
Showing that Leto is like the pinnacle of virtue. He doesn't have that prejudice, and he does trust.
Which Ned Stark is basically
he doesn't have the same faults as Thufir Hawat.
Yeah.
That he actually is impenetrable to the Harkonnen vice, the control of vice.
Great point. Yes.
They can never control
They tried to get that voice of jealousy, but he's not.
He's not.
He just
can't
trusts.
Get him.
You can't. And so that's why he was untaintable. And so Duke Leto and Jessica's relationship, and how much you saw that they trusted each other. And you kind of had that parallel between Duke Leto and, keeping that information from Jessica. Like you see in Ned Stark keeping information from his wife, Catelyn Stark, about bastard Jon Snow. You just see the one-to-one inspirations of honorable people who lie / deceive for a better outcome and for their loved ones. Like they'll make themselves look bad and cause turmoil in their relationship for the relationship to...
He wants what's best for her. And at that moment, he realized what was best for her was not necessarily their relationship, but her future.
Right.
And Paul.
Right.
That is what she needed most.
Yeah.
Which is sad and tragic, but
and that seed I was getting to with Jessica and the Duke's relationship is Bene Gesserit wanted Jessica to have a girl. Because the Bene Gesserit can control whether they have boys or girls.
Well, their initial plan was for Jessica's daughter to then marry a Harkonnen, and then that child of Atreides and Harkonnen would be the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah. So they had this plan, but Jessica, for her husband, had a boy. So you already see at the get-go that Jessica's she's Bene Gesserit, but there's a seed of she cares more about her family. And you see her go down that path of being Reverend Mother, and not just Reverend Mother, but being the Bene Gesserit. And she kind of comes full circle with Paul matters more than my Bene Gesserit.
Paul matters more than the Kwisatz Haderach.
Exactly, yes. And so you already see that from the beginning, the seeds of it, and you see her not revert her arc, but you see her find out that that's actually what she needs to double down on. Because she was very much still talking with the Bene Gesserit and going, hey, I had... It was just, the way it was done was very, very nice. And I love that. I love Leto's and Jessica's relationship. That was really nice.
We'll get into a plot, but I loved the moment of...
Do you want to go in the plot now? Or any character? Talk about that moment.
Is there any,
I think... I think just to justify my lower rating is... It's not Darrow of Light. No. To justify my lower rating, I like all these things. I think that the time we spent with the characters, and I think thematically and plot-wise, all the characters really serve their purpose, all realized. maybe it's a form of we spent a small amount of time with a lot of characters. So there was Paul, of course, we had, and Jessica. So I got them a lot, and we just had moments with a lot of the other characters who served their roles and work really well with the world, work really well with the plot. But as the character, I was looking at flaws, wants, needs, all this, and just going, okay, they're good, and I got them there. I just didn't look. I put the love or the interesting parts about them maybe in my world building more or the plot more. So that's just to go why I didn't give 10 out of 10 or closer to 9 like you. Just to get, but you're right. All of them are great. So.
I just think that they're not just pieces on the board. That they actually are fully realized characters.
Oh, I agree with you.
To it. So that's why I fell in love with them. Especially someone like Duke Leto, you don't get a lot of time with, really. But you feel his influence even after his death. That he's an important character even after he dies.
That's
Leah
true.
Kynes is an important character even after he dies.
Caveat though, like that's true for Leto, but there's still still I care much more for Ned Stark than Duke Leto. Now, even though that they're very similar characters, so Leto serves the purpose of the plot in that role really well, but as a character who, like, I understand him, I get him, but beyond what he's there, he's not just a puzzle piece. He is realized. There's just that not a missing element. This is what Frank Herbert was going for. It's more of a who lives with me more? Is it Duke Leto or Ned, or is it's more thinking about that? Where this is definitely not a character focused book, whereas Game of Thrones whereas Stormlight are more character focused. So you can much more easily fall in love, not just fall in love with, but you'd want to sit down and have a whole conversation with that person more so than other. But again, just being nitpicky and stupid.
Fair enough. For me, Duke Leto was an okay character until his conversation with Paul.
Which was it with the one about his mother? And
about his mother.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
That put in context of it was a couple other scenes after that as well, but it put into context his character, and I fell in love with him, especially in the tense scene of Paul telling Jessica about the message that Duke left him.
Rich, I apologize.
The Duke always loved her and never doubted her for a minute, and had to give into the lie to protect them.
Rich, I apologize, by the way. And
you apologize?
I apologize. Yeah,
for
deeply.
What? For hurting my feelings on not liking the Wheel of Time?
that never. I'm apologizing for something specific. Nothing else in my life will I apologize to you for. Just when we're reviewing things that I love and I give it so high and you give it a little bit lower, and your natural inclination to give things like, oh, this is why I didn't give it. Like, I see what you mean now, because I hear you saying this and like, yeah, I agree. But 9, and so now I'm getting into your shoes.
You understand,
because when I love something so much, and you're like, "Oh, I liked it," but this sadist loves it. Like this, Austin loves it that much, and then you start hammering into me and chiseling at my bones and sawing off my tendons. that is where I'm just. But now, for a second, I see you liking it. I'm just going, "Yeah, I do," but not. So I put myself in your shoes. Yeah.
The difference is that I'm doing this for the sci-fi masterpiece and classic of Dune, and you're doing it for a fun romp in space, Red Rising.
It's not just fun romp in space. It's about family. It's about family. It's like Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious in space. No, Red Rising honestly, on thinking back on it, it does stay with you quite a while. It's a very fun, enjoyable story.
Here's all I'm saying. Book 1. Okay, Dune, we're gushing. It's great. Book 1 of Red Rising, you gave like a 6 something. Can you just be nice and be like, hey, maybe it deserves a 7?
Possibly.
I'll take that. We're going on plot. I'll take that. I'm not going to let you take it back. Plot, what'd you get plot out of 10?
A 9 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10 for me. We're very close on that. And plot was one of the most impressive parts of the book. And can I jump the gun on this and say the one thing that this plot did beautifully, exquisitely, tastefully, delightfully. I was looking for you to bounce off some. Nope.
No, I'm going to let you drown in that one.
I'm going to drownfully. Okay, so the best part about the plot was Dr. Yue. And what I mean by that is the whole omniscient point of view that we get we're in all these characters' heads, but not for a second. A lot of stories will kind of pull that tension and go, oh, I can't wait to subvert your expectations and give you a plot twist. a lot of books will have you pulling to the next page. It's totally fine. I love me those books. But a lot of the books rely on their plot twists to make you continue reading and rely on that question, that mystery of a plot point and going, oh my God, that big reveal. When's the next big reveal happening? Well, right from the get-go with the omniscient point of view, you can't pull that trick as much.
I don't
especially
think you can't really pull that trick anywhere in this book.
Because Paul sees both present, past, and future.
Yeah.
Like, the whole character herself. So why Dune works so... hey, by the way, Dune works... I feel like it's so weird in 2024 to be reviewing like, man... anyways.
Dune, what a great book.
What a surprise, underrated read. You guys should check this one out. But I feel like it's been said 1,000 times. Maybe something new will come out of this. Where Paul's on seeing past, present, future, and how omniscient the whole story is itself, or how omniscient the characters are, makes sense for the prose to be omniscient. So this book would make no sense if it was just, Dr. Yue betrayal, big reveal. It makes perfect sense, and he doesn't rely on having... He trusts that he has his world set up enough, and he trusts that he has his... he trusts that he has the message and the world and the characters and everything is interwoven so well that you're going to read just out of interest and just out of fascination with everything rather than
you want to see the process.
Yeah.
Like you're fast. Often if the process, if the end goal is not that interesting, like you can go off a shock value and shock will get you to continue on.
Right.
But you really have to be good if you just care about the process.
Exactly.
And that's what Dune is.
It's like looking at a car or a car manufacturer or someone that's really into cars and seeing the end result of a Lamborghini, but actually being interested in how did you do that? How did you put the axles together? Because I know you love your construction. You love to put things together. So you already know what the end product looks like. Okay, that's the thing it looks like. How the hell did you get there?
Yeah.
How did you make that thing?
That's way more fun.
It puts together, and so you look at this thing and it looks, how does this betrayal go down? We know that they get betrayed. We know that this is going to go poorly, but how does the seeds lead up to that? What happens to Dr. Yue's betrayal? Because not for a second are you going, who's it going to be? Which I think the movies do differently. But Dr. Yue, from the get-go.
Yeah, he's betraying, like from his introduction.
Yeah.
He's betraying the Duke.
Right.
And yet it still works really well of you're seeing his inner turmoil of it, and you start to see his plans within plans.
Yeah.
Trying to get it, like, you understand. It's just not as simple, where, again, the difference of the movie. I'm sorry to bring up the movie again, but how Dr. Yue...
Wait, could you say I'm sorry again?
No, that was the only one you get.
I've never hear that from you.
Sorry is a submission of guilt. I'm never going to submit to your rules. I will not bend the knee.
Never mind. I was going to go again. A 5-layer deep thing. Let's move on. Let's move past that. Yeah.
But in the movie with Dr. Yue, it's more of a... It just doesn't hit as well because, again, you're not in their head, but you could take it as like, he's just trying to save his wife, which is probably dead. What does he do even there for? Is it just for revenge?
Which, that's a lot to put out in the movie. You have to cut things, and
it was hard to do. And ultimately, from the movie, you just go, he's doing it for revenge.
Yeah,
fine, fair enough. In the book, it's far more about like confirmation. He has to know. He's pretty sure that his wife is dead, like more than likely, but he has to know.
Yeah,
and that the not knowing is worse than anything. And so he's doing all this to get confirmation and then ultimately revenge.
Right.
Which was far more interesting as a character motivation.
Oh, yeah. The motivation and the interest it puts in the reader, because I think you mentioned this, the Hitchcock method of having the grenade under the table and it's going to go off. The characters don't. So we know... Duke Leto, Jessica, Paul Atreides they don't know what's going to happen, but we do, and Dr. Yue does. So we're just watching the grenade about to explode, and that tension's sometimes more tense than the
surprise,
the unknown surprise and shock value. That's what's really cool about how this whole plot's constructed. But that was the main point, because there's a bunch that happens in this book that we can't cover. Was there another big point or through line of Dune that you just liked how the plot worked out? It's a 3-parter. Did you like how it was formatted? Did you like the pacing? What about it?
I mean, tone, like what did I feel like I was promised in the book? I was promised a complicated space drama.
Did you get that?
I think I got that.
Got
I
complicated
think I
space drama.
got complicated space drama.
Almost too complicated space drama.
Almost too complicated.
What if when they promise and over deliver to a point where you're like, I didn't want that much.
I didn't sign up for this. This is a bit much. I ordered the salad. You gave me a 3-course meal.
Yeah, that's a lot of calories.
It is a lot of calories. But I think oh God, I'm trying to think of a moment exactly like that, and
where over delivered, or
no, just the omnipresence offers some value. I think the Princess Erlon.
I got one for you. I got one. Another exciting point was with the Baron and Foyd Rotha. Or
yeah,
that whole scene of them both plotting in their heads of, okay, I still need him, so I can't kill him right now, so I have to follow him. And Baron thinking he could kill me, but he needs that back and forth between why they're working the way they are working in the scene.
Also, the whole battle. So when Foyd Rotha is actually fighting the Duke's man, and all the little games within games, the plans within plans of the poison on the different knife, and then the Baron kind of looking down and going like, oh, this bitch, he's doing stuff. All right. He understands that Foyd Rotha is like manipulating things.
Yep.
Terrible stuff. So that's enjoyable. I think the overall plan. So there's moments where Paul is in flux, where he doesn't know what the future holds, and it could be many things. I don't think the tension hold like that. You're supposed to go, oh, he could die, but he probably won't. And so you don't really feel that same way. I think that was it. The omnipresence really comes into play in Princess Urlan's quotes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hearing all the future quotes and the thoughts of Muad'Dib in the future sense is really valuable in the present. And I loved those moments. I think there's a key moment with introduction of he was the almost Kwisatz Haderach, the friend. Count Faring.
That's I love that.
His introduction by Princess Erlon is talking about Faring's friendship with the Emperor and saying like, all told though he couldn't. His friendship ultimately ended though because he couldn't kill one man. And then you're just kind of going like, I don't know how Princess Erlon thinks about that. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I'm not exactly sure. Is she on Muad'Dib's side? Is she on the Emperor's side? She takes a fairly neutral stance. I'm wondering who is that? Especially on the first read, I didn't understand. And I didn't know that would be Paul.
Right.
And I loved at the end. I think it's a bit more of a sign of Princess Erlon didn't particularly want Paul to win. I don't think so. And so I took that as more negative thing. That like
Got it.
Faring failed her father and her. Now, I could be very wrong because I haven't read the sequel books. I will be reading the sequel books.
Yeah, you're saying something I didn't think about too much. So I'm just taking in what you're saying. I didn't not think of it like that. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, people commenting.
Yeah.
I imagine Princess Erlon is a more major character in the sequel. So
yeah, we're only going in with book one information. But yeah, the plot as a whole, you're talking about the omniscient point of view as well from Erlon's perspective, and I love those are epigraphs right at the beginning of each chapter. They added a lot to both the world, but Princess Erlon's preface with each thing. There was one earlier on in the book. I wish I wrote it down here, but how she was talking about the song that people would be saying about Dr. Yue. Do you remember that?
Shoot.
I loved that. It was because you know how all of hers were long paragraphs and just intense, and you think about it. Sometimes it's philosophical, and then there was one short snippet. Or do you want me to cut and you go to finding it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cut to Richard finding it right now. All right, Richard, you got it?
Yep. Yue goes the refrain. 1,000,000 deaths were not enough for Yue.
And was that Princess Irulan or was it somebody else that said that?
Nope. From A Child's History of Muad'Dib by Princess Irulan.
Yes, okay. And anyways, that sometimes those quotes really hit because you go from philosophical and then you have a quick jutting motion. Anyways, that stuck with me after reading the whole thing. So
Yeah.
The plot wise though,
Let's kind of break it up into the 3 sections. So
Three
we have
sections.
part 1, which I enjoyed a lot more on the second read because I got to see a bunch of these characters and understand them a bit more. I was in the zone of reading them. Some of my favorite plot points of the dinner scene was probably one of my favorite.
Plot
top,
one could
top
be
5 for me.
Plot one could be explained as from start of the book to betrayal, essentially.
Yes.
And that dinner scene's huge as far as, especially with the omniscient point of view we get, which is so hard to adapt. Why'd you love it? Why'd you love it in the book so much? And
it's a unique perspective. Yeah. Ultimately, you don't get to be in everyone's heads at once in that fluid of a manner. And it was just so much fun of seeing how everyone thinks and how everyone thinks of how they think of how other people think and what are the plans within the plans. And glorious. And actually being able to understand that. It's such a unique perspective to see in a book and in any story, really.
Right.
So for me, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Other than that, stuff in book part 1, there's so much to talk about. I don't even know which one to start with.
It's a little overwhelming, actually.
It's a little bit because do you want to talk about the Bene Gesserit's plan of seeding the religion of the Fremen and how Paul and Lady Jessica are feeding into the legends and how partly it's by
Kozakarak.
The
Lisan al-Gaib.
The Lisan al-Gaib, and how partly it's the Bene Gesserit actually just set these things up and they naturally fall into place. But then a part of it is the Lady Jessica and Paul kind of leaning into it, more Jessica than Paul. But because Paul kind of stumbles into these things of he will know your ways without being among them, or how he knows how to apply the still suit without even asking anyone because he's just smart and figures it out.
Yeah.
But Lady Jessica realizing talking with the housekeeper of going oh crap, this is an important moment. I need to figure out what are the right words to say back to her. I need to lean into what the prophecy should be, and her outthinking it and able to lean into the prophecy foretold.
Right.
Love that. Her with Kynes of when she says, "Oh, I'm going to keep the garden, the observatory in trust for Arrakis. That one day Arrakis will have the beauty in that. I will plant the seeds from this garden into the land of Arrakis will become green again." It's she will know your dream and have it as her own. And
there's a lot.
So
I do think part 1 was my favorite of the 3. Which was yours?
It's between part 1 and part 3 for me.
So
I think part 2 is the weakest.
I think part 2 is the pacing's just off a bit, or it goes on a little bit longer. And part 1 and 3, I guess, have the more exciting moments. So, would you agree that I'm gonna go? You know what? We've been talking a lot of good things. I'm gonna be Richard.
You gonna be me?
I'm gonna be you.
Okay.
You know what I didn't love?
What did you not love?
I didn't love this, but okay, part 3, good ending and everything. The little bit of, it is a story. I get it. Just a little bit of convenience there was that everybody was in the same room and same place. And that when Paul was able to, obviously the Emperor came down to show that he's still in control. And hey, I got this under control. We got this whole thing going. But when the Emperor's coming down, it's that trope that I'm not the most in love with, where all the puzzle pieces fit together because they put themselves in the right spot there. That's all. Just being a little negative. Just, what? I'll double down. I hate it.
I mean, it's two important people. It's the Emperor and the Baron were together, which kind of makes sense why they would be together.
I could see the logic though of why the Emperor should never go down there. I also see the logic of why he could. Logicking from the Emperor's point of view, it probably would have made a lot more sense, especially in hindsight, to just not go to Dune. But I get that it had to work for the story. I'm just saying that typical trope. There's another book that I won't spoil, but it happens in a certain moment in Red Rising where I don't like that moment it happens in Red Rising either. So it's a typical trope of everyone comes in one place and I'm able to solve all things right here kind of trope.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's some ways that you could say, oh, the Emperor had to go down to Arrakis, but yeah, hindsight, like why do you put your king on the front line? It's not really a wise decision,
especially with how he's acted the whole time. I get it's not stupid. It's
not stupid because
just,
he has. It's not.
There's a reason.
It's not something he can leave to the other houses.
Yeah,
he actually has to be the one. Like he's the only one that could get on there because if the other houses go through, it's total war. Yep. He needs to be the figurehead to actually crush this.
Yes, I
get it. But
yeah, it's one of those things where I read a book and I'm not the biggest fan of dream sequences, for example. And which this is just fresh in my mind. I watched a film the other day that I won't even name the film. If you guys have seen it, you'll know. It's in the Oscars this year, in the 2023 Oscars. So it's 2024 they're happening. But would it be the 2023 Oscars since it's 2024 Oscars, but based on movies that came out in 2023?
Yeah.
I won't say which film because I don't want to spoil it, but the end of the film had it was all a dream trope, it was all not real trope, or what happened didn't actually happen trope. You hate that, right?
Generally, yeah.
I generally hate that. This movie did it the best it can ever be done.
Oh,
it did it, and I went, that gave the whole message of the film. That makes a ton of sense. I love that ending, and why don't I hate this? And so I've been thinking for the past 24 hours about how genius it was. I won't say the film because I don't want to spoil it away, but eventually I'll talk about it and then convince people to watch it because it had me. It was great. It was so good.
Well, talk about dream sequences. Dune has quite a few of them. Quite a few dream sequences. And I think it works incredibly well, especially part 3. So, of course, you have the tent scene, which is one of the best written scenes in the book. Like, I think you agree the tent scene with Paul and Jessica is your favorite, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And him dreaming of the possible futures and just like this omnipresent vision of the galactic jihad and just like, oh, Lord. And then several parts in part 2 of him seeing parts of the future and him when he, the weird water of life, Dune spice orgy thing of him like living his life in completion with Chani, but like basically the first week they meet of like coming together and going like, I literally see our whole future together already. And she's like, God damn it, I see it too. Oh Lord.
That is the thing I usually don't like about dream sequences. There's always those tropes you don't like that can do it in a way that, the thing I typically don't like about dream sequences is it feels meandering, or it feels like it's giving the message of something that we can get later. It's a cheaper way to do so, or you just see it happen. It's bad a lot of the times that I've seen, where there's a corny dream sequence, or it's a way to almost have a voiceover in a film. The cheap trick in a film to just go da 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 da. Here's the da da da. And I've caveating that with saying, I don't mean with Galadriel at the beginning of Lord of the Rings or things like that.
Perfect narrator.
Perfect narrator, perfect narration that's needed to set up things. Again, there's exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, I don't like dream sequences because they feel meandering or wasteful, or there's a better way to portray that. The whole point of the dream sequences here is actually to Paul's character and why he's so messed up and seeing actual potential futures. And so everything, they never feel wasted. They always feel purposeful to what the story is getting across. That's why I didn't dislike them here.
I think a perfect dream sequence was the beginning of part 3.
Remind me that one.
What? Beginning of part 3, because there's a time jump. How we know there's a time jump is Paul waking up and not knowing where he is. He's far more ingrained into he lives in the past, present, and future. And so he's trying to think about things like, okay, the birth of my second son. And this where Chani's, no, that hasn't happened yet. Back. Trying to piece things together. I was with Jessica in the tent. Nope. That's already happened before. I'm after that. And him just trying to work through
triangulate where he is.
And he doesn't know the present. And he goes, Chani is in the south with my son, my first son, Leto. Okay. Got it. That's where I am right now.
Yeah.
which one, how much
Yeah.
value you get out of like one, you get, okay, this is a time jump. You get the whole dream sequence of things to come, but also just, man, Paul's a lot messed up. He doesn't even know when he is existence.
How does it make you feel about the problems you have in your life? Just like my Monday was kind of bad. Paul doesn't know what dimension he's in.
My colleague was a little bit snidey to me at work.
Shout him out. Who was it?
No, actually, they're all pretty good.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a small problem.
Think of a small problem. Typical. You know what's a small?
You know what? He never watched this. Hey, Brian.
I was gonna say, what's a small enough problem you're dealing with? Like in the past week, what's been a small problem?
I have had trouble getting out of bed to actually go on my morning walk. I'm halfway consistent. Sometimes I don't get enough sleep.
And you're upset because you want to do it a lot of the times.
I want to do it
sometimes you
more.
always don't get it in.
Yeah, I'm trying to work up the habit and do it more often, but sometimes I don't get enough sleep.
That actually seems like a really reasonable and mature way of thinking about it.
Yeah, but I still know where I am and when I am.
In perspective, it's like, it's fine.
I'm doing my best.
I'm doing all right.
I'm doing okay.
I'll keep trying. It's the next step.
It's the next step. The most important step. The next one.
Yes. So that was, I can't believe, see, again, you're bringing up plot points. There's so many in the book that we're going to gloss over a lot. We're sorry. So that is why the plot is so great from our perspective, and my one little nitpick about the ending, but things like that. So do you
you want to talk about endings?
Oh yeah.
I absolutely loved the writing and just the entire scene of Paul confronting the Emperor, and especially the Reverend Mother, Bene Gesserit.
Oh, go on.
I just think the entire dialogue is just peak. And from that scene alone, I understand where people are going like, oh yeah, Paul's the hero and he's, go Paul, and like too much into that hero message. Like, he is a hero at the end of that and just powerful.
Saying to the, not Reverend Mother, saying to the Bene Gesserit,
how does it feel for over 80 generations? Like I am the culmination of everything you've strived for,
and you can't control me.
So good. Like I remember your Gom Jabbar. Now remember mine. Yeah. I could kill you with a word.
Oh,
just use the voice on it.
Damn, Paul.
It's so good. I loved that.
Want to transition into dialogue and prose.
Yeah.
And what'd you give that out of 10?
A 9.5.
Nice.
I had to.
I'll just put mine on the screen. A little 8. Okay. What'd you give? So give some of those best quotes. You said you had some from Princess Irulan.
We're going to have to start with the most famous, one that I would consider getting a tattoo of. This would be the thing.
Would you actually?
I'd consider this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I remain. Perfect. Just fucking genius. Genius writing of like, one, Frank Herbert wrote that, was like, that's a bang line. I can't use that only once. I gotta use that a few times. It's kind of like it's Robert Jordan when he came up with the intro to Wheel of Time.
Oh, damn it! Yeah.
I can't use it just once.
Just copy paste.
I'm gonna use it again. It's too good.
That is the thing when writers go like, I'm not getting better than that.
I'm gonna do it again. Why write new things when the last thing I wrote was the best?
It slapped. Right?
Repeat.
Yeah, you gotta say that line is the first in dialogue prose. Well, what other ones that aren't as popular hit with you?
Maybe give as few orders as possible. His father had told him once long ago. Once you've given orders on a subject, you must always give orders on that subject. Love that the growth is limited by the necessity which it is present in the least amount. And naturally, the least favorable condition controls the growth rate. I think there's just so much wisdom in a lot of this stuff where you get to think about things. Frank Herbert spent a lot of time researching ecology, ecology and understanding like how a planet like Arrakis would even function or could function. Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. Anyway, the Princess Irulan has a bunch of quotes from the Muad'Dib. Again, it's Princess Irulan quoting the Muad'Dib most of the time. But there's so much wisdom in there. I could just kind of rattle off things kind of out of order. But things like Kynes' death. Then, as his planet killed him, it occurred to Kynes that his father and all the other scientists were wrong, that the most persistent principle of the universe were accident and error. Of how much that he's tried to control and understand the process and like fine tune it, and realizing that there is no like order really. It's chaos made into order. Great stuff. I mean, the mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience.
A lot of these quotes were one of them being those who can destroy a thing control it. Or
The people who can destroy a thing, they control it.
Right. All of these one-liners or bits of wisdom that you can take away and see there's a lot of truth to them. Of the whole plot point at the end of Paul being able to control the spice gave him power, gave him control in the situation. And you could think of that. And I love with fiction, you could extrapolate into your own lives. Like the reason why I think this has lasted so long with the channel is either of us can pull the switch.
That is true.
We cannot have a channel on our own. So we have an equal amount of WMDs at each other. It's mutually assured destruction, because for a second, if I'm like, in the back of your head, like, oh, if Austin's not here, what? And then I know in the back of my head, if Rich isn't here, like, oh, damn. So we're constantly in this weird frictional convergence.
Well, that's the thing. We both do different things. You do more of the actual day-to-day work of it, and I do other things of background, and I show up.
No, I even mean take away all the background, the showing up portion.
Yeah, well, no, we both can destroy the thing, and therefore we both control.
It's like the band that breaks up, because when we should analyze this, because every band that's ever broken up, the reason it's kind of pulled apart is they become famous enough as individuals, where the individual there was no longer a power switch because the person could leave and go on their own, and they weren't tied to the success of the group.
That's I mean.
Damn.
I was gonna. You can even go a little bit more. Like you want to talk about divorce law?
Go in. Let's go.
I mean, the fact that divorce is a possibility, like no fault divorce.
Oh,
the option of leaving, the option to destroy a thing, means you control it. Versus, in different cultures, how do you actually destroy a relationship? Often it was a lot harder to do so legally, and the person who could do so legally controls the relationship.
Right. Well, yeah, because divorce law hasn't changed over the years. Yeah. Right. Wow. Dune's great, man. Just that one little line's get us thinking. But man, I'm thinking about bands now. Why? Because I'm thinking of every historical band that's broken up, and there's a reason when you get so popular. It really works when you're just on the up and coming. Like, hey, we all need each other. We're all climbing up that ladder. But then as soon as you get the inkling that just one little seed happens where never mind. Again, I was gonna be like that. Never mind.
Yoko.
No, Yoko. I was gonna little personal thing background. I was thinking Yoko Ono with the Beatles and just like My Girlfriend and like breaking up the band. I was just thinking about your hate toward her and just going like you witch.
I like his girlfriend quite a lot. I have joked with her that she has stolen him from me.
So the layer behind this is like, man, are we gonna break up the band because of this? I don't know, man. And
thing is, ultimately she can't, because you're lost without me.
Yeah.
The question of like, would she still stay with you if you had like,
in a way,
absolutely nothing?
In a way, you control my relationship with her.
I could destroy it.
Because you could destroy
I could destroy it. Meaning I control it.
And now I dislike Dune. Now it's... Okay, so dialogue prose, we could go rant all day about about
talking about
certain quotes, but give me the more macro scope of why the prose works for you.
Unique voices. I think it is essential for a book like Dune to have a lock on unique voices, because you're not only one unique voice for each character, two, because characters talk a different way than they think. And so they think differently in a different voice. And so you have to hold both of those at the same time for things like, of course, the dinner scene, which is the most important for me. Every single character has two unique voices, and being able to differentiate from all of them is so difficult. But he's able to do it. That is amazing work.
Yeah.
I find. So unique voices, fantastic. Scene visualization.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably the best. I mean, who does it better? Maybe like Tolkien. Tolkien is as good at scene visualization, but I think Dune and all of how the people look, how the Fremen look and feel, like you are put into the world.
Oh, for sure. It's like comparable to the mines in Red Rising. Like it's that visual. Like you get that much visual.
Yeah, sure.
The face Fish gave me was horror, shock, awe, love. Oh God. But yes, very, very visually stimulating. Not just that, every scene you could exactly know where you are in the world. So
also, for my thoughts on the pacing being a little bit too long in part 2 of it, I think the book is fairly concise in what it doesn't feel like a lot of wasted time. Where every scene pushes the character, describes more about the world, pushes a plot further along, and like gives you some great nuggets of wisdom and little world building aspects. Like it does everything all the time.
I'm gonna put you in an uncomfortable position, as I always do. And I know you said this off camera, but thinking about Dune as one book and Wheel of Time is 14, which world is explored more? Which feels more real and realized?
Thing
is, it's close, right?
It's close. No, that is totally the case. Dune in one book, I think, does the exact same as Wheel of Time does in 14.
Yeah.
I still love Wheel of Time, but my God, that's efficient.
Right?
That's impressive.
That's a bit... I think it says more about Dune than it does about Wheel of Time being... It's not... You love your Wheel of Time.
I love
that.
It. Yeah,
that's not
great.
A detriment to how much you love Wheel of Time. It's just an exclamation of how much Dune actually gets across its world and message and plot in that short of a span. It's efficient.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I love the Wheel of Time. I almost never say... Like, you know how when you say you love... Oathbringer.
Oh, yeah.
I love Oathbringer. I love Golden Sun.
Yeah.
You don't often say the full thing of, I love the Red Rising saga. I love Stormlight Archive, sure, but there's something of you love the books. I love the Wheel of Time.
Some speak to you more than others.
Yeah, I look at it as a whole, and I treat it as such.
Yeah.
If I were to break it down into its parts, I'd be like, it's not amazing, every book, but enough is great for the total to be fantastic.
I get you. Yeah, whereas Dune just does this in one book.
It does it all in one.
Yeah.
It's perfection.
Do you want to go into world building then?
Oh Lord.
This has been a great episode, everybody. We might need to do another episode on world.
Oh Lord.
No, let's get you ready for this?
Yeah.
What'd you give world building out of 10?
10 out of 10. It's as good as it can get.
I also gave it a 10. Yeah.
If I were to give it anything less, it'd be like, oh well,
what do you expect?
What do you expect? What do you want more? You expect better? No. If every book was Dune level of world building, we'd live in perfect times.
These would be the golden days.
These would be the golden days. We only get occasional Dunes out there.
There is so much to talk about with the world. Yeah. Can I narrow the scope real quick?
Go ahead.
And then we'll go from there, okay? Why does Dune work? As a student of of writing, as a student of books, we're exploring these stories and going, what makes them tick? What makes them tack? Okay, what makes them teeter? What makes them totter? I just had to get that. Hey, merch in the description below, tutorramble.com if you want to check out our merch. You can, if you want some You Teeter My Totter merch.
Little hat, little democracy. There we go.
Do not get that shirt.
Democracy
Get
is
the
cringe.
You Teeter My Totter. The artwork looks way better.
You're not even wearing your merch.
Because I don't need to actually wear it for it to sell. It's just people gravitate toward the. We have a tiny competition going on. Our egos of which shirt design.
I do think mine's better personally.
I personally think yours is shit. It does look so cool.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna send that right to the artist that we hired.
No, I love it. I love it. Oh man. So now here's the breakdown of narrowing the scope of this conversation for the world. What makes a world amazing? Sanderson explains his writing style and how he does a world. And I don't know exactly Frank Herbert's method here, but what works for Sanderson and what seems to work with this book as well is you take some core elements of a world. Take a couple things, 3 or 4. What Sanderson does in the Stormlight Archive, he takes weather patterns and he takes the storm. And how does that affect cultures? How does that affect fauna, flora? How does that affect history? He takes the weather pattern, he takes a magic system, and how does that affect everything? Dune, it starts narrowly with, again, don't know where Frank Herbert started, but you take a few elements like water with the Fremen, you take the Bene Gesserit, and you take spice. You take these kind of elements. The big world building elements of spice is a huge element, the Bene Gesserit's planning, and the Fremen's culture and water. Now you get there's a ton.
I would also add in there the background of
technology,
AI, the post AI apocalypse.
That's a great point. Yeah,
because that affects a lot of these other factors as well.
Exactly.
But those 4 things.
Those 4 things. Then all the little things you can get out of that, like the worms, and then the suits, and then everything that comes off of that. Makes sense because if you start with the premise of there's this world with spice, it's this post-apocalyptic, feudal, technologically, you take those 4 elements and everything else just fits in the puzzle piece because it's, of course, a world with people that don't have water, water is sparse. Of course, they would appreciate water like that. Of course, when they interact, they would see it as holy, and spitting would be a sign of like, you're giving up your water, or when you die, you would take their water. Of course, a place like that would work like this. And if all of these just make sense because you set yourself with a couple premises, and then all of it follows and makes sense. Now, you love this world so. Again, it's a 10. We can't touch everything, but Rich, give me a good old Richard rant. A Richard rant of just why Dune's world building slaps, as the kids say.
It slaps, yeah. Well, as you're bringing up, you're talking about the coherence of the world. It fitting together, and there's not anything out of place. That there's no like kind of pinprick of like, why would this work this way? You're only doing that, but it's our world, but you're fitting stuff on top or covering up. It's a fully realized world from the kind of the ground up.
Yeah.
What makes this so good, as you talked about, of everything affecting everything else and that coherence, it lives off the page. This world feels like it could be, there's stuff going on without me reading it.
Yeah.
That's an important aspect of it. That's a feeling. It's hard to do that it's hard to pin that exactly down. I think part of it is the coherence of like, if it makes sense to be happening, it makes sense for it to happen other places. And so that makes you feel like it could be off the page.
Right.
That's not centered around the main character all the time. The setting itself, so everything about the world serves to further explore the message that the book's trying to do. It serves to teach the characters. Everything is tied together. The world itself pushes forward the characters. It has some of the most emotional moments for me. Kynes' death out on the dunes and how he dies to it is tied to how the world works.
Right.
So emotionally, I'm getting all the visual signs and it's moving me. The characters are intrinsically moved by the world of, Paul being fundamentally shaped by the Fremen. The plot is moved along because the world is how it's set up. If you set up the world and you put the puzzle pieces together and the thing falls like dominoes.
Yeah.
Because of course things have to be this way, and of course the plot has to follow the way it does, because the world is set up in such a way that everything just falls into place.
Yeah.
I think it kind of moves the dialogue, where the dialogue and the world fits so well together, of how we're described this post, like feudalism, empire, society. Because people have moved away from technology, they've focused far more on training their mind, which means I think it leads a lot to the prose style of the, like, all the magnificent quotes. It could seem a little bit pretentious, but it makes sense for Dune. Of course, they don't have computers. They constantly train their mind. They read all the time. They have to read the poetry. They have to read philosophy, all this stuff, where the world and setting makes sense why people sound the way they do. Mm-hmm. All of this serves together means it's perfect.
And the most perfect part about the world building is Alia.
Yeah. That's a good point of, it's such a weird element. Yeah. It shouldn't work.
No.
But when it happens, you'll go like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it's perfectly creepy.
Perfectly creepy.
Perfectly interesting. That is one of my favorite parts about the book.
Yeah. Alia was I think my favorite part from book 3, or part 3 of the book. Just her coming about and going like, oh no, what's going to happen to her? And then she's actually born, like, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, she's 2. Oh, this is weird. This is not,
This doesn't, yeah. I follow. It's
I just thought it was also adorable how she kills the Baron.
Adorably kills the Baron, yes.
I just imagine this, like, tiny 2-year-old just standing up to the Emperor like, you don't control me. I only follow my brother. He's the best. And just her with a little gum jabar just stabbing the Baron.
the visuals, the only visual we have of that is from the 1984 movie Dune. It's not in the new one, probably for a good reason.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, it's hard to do, or hard to come across, especially with how that says something about the medium of a book, and how that could be portrayed in a book versus an adaptation.
Yeah.
There's just some things in Dune that don't translate well.
Most of what Dune is doesn't translate well to any other medium other than a book.
Well, I mean, even I'm very curious because I watched the first movie before reading the book. Then I read the book, then watched the second movie. So I know, even for people who haven't read the books, I know people have loved the films. They're very popular as well. But I should say I was confused in the first film more so, but also people that watched the 2 films, even if they loved it, even if they're loving the films, they're still very confused by a lot of elements. I read the book and I'm still confused by a lot of elements, but we'll watch it and then have questions about the Haderach versus the Lisan al-Gaib versus what the Water of Life does. And there's some elements that aren't in the movie as well that just aren't explored or covered. Like, does it come across in the movie that the sandworms are the reason the spice exists? And no, I don't think that, right? That doesn't come across. I don't think. Is it? No, I don't think it's explained in the films.
It's not really explained in the films,
right?
But I think you can take some hints from the second movie, basically showing how to make the Water of Life, which is a high concentration of spice.
Oh, true. There is that scene.
It's created by the worms, and so you, like, strangling a worm in water or
gives you the Water of Life.
So, like, okay, the worms have something to do with spice.
Right. Yeah, again, the reason, or not the reason, but reading the book and watching the films fills in all those gaps where, that. Whereas if you're just watching the movies, it's impressive how much the films were able to fit world building into it for as just being films, because you can't just write out, you don't have prose in between dialogue where you could explain things.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The director actually said in a article, interview type deal where he's saying, like, he had to cut a lot of things where the book is able to focus on a lot of different elements.
Oh, yeah.
Where the movie, he focuses entirely on Paul and the Bene Gesserit. What that means is the Mentats at Thufir falls by the wayside. So does the Guild falls by the wayside.
Oh, right.
A lot of the different acts of the Fremen falls by the wayside. Like, it's the Bene Gesserit. It's not the Fremen. It's how the Bene Gesserit affect the Fremen.
Right.
So the Fremen even take a backseat to that. So it is primarily Paul, Bene Gesserit.
That makes sense. Okay.
That's the primary. Everything else is secondary to that. And so that's why the movie is as it is.
Right, because if you're saying in the films, I think it prioritizes a bit of the tech as well. It doesn't explain the tech, but it obviously makes it clear that here's how the suits work, here's how the shields work, so that you can understand how the fight scenes work and all that sort of things. But the aspects that maybe aren't translated as much are, what would you say the aspect from the book? Let's not compare the two.
Sure.
Because that's a different conversation. Just sticking to the book, what other elements, like the worms themselves, Alia, the tech, spice, water, Bene Gesserit, the mentats,
just the act of how spice interacts with the guild and how they're able to navigate space by basically, doing a line of spice and just being high.
How the justification for why if people are able to fight with swords.
Oh God,
it's so
perfect.
Cool. It's so cool. And how you can't use lasers in certain situations where shields, it just all the tech makes it both makes sense why it happens, but also gives a good justification for cool scenes of why in this, because it's very hard in a sci-fi world to ground you in reality. Mm-hmm. Why I like that it's post-apocalyptic and gives you more of it gives limits, because I look at a magic system in fantasy almost like I look at sci-fi's science. What's the limit to the science? Why is it cool? What makes it cool is knowing what it can't do more than what it can do. Because sure, you can do, there's some sci-fi things where, okay, hyper speed and you can go there and do all this instantaneously, but that can take away some of the realistic or the suspension of disbelief of anything could happen then. And that you have to be very careful with fantasy and sci-fi not to just be like, this is a limitless sandbox. What makes sci-fi so amazing is in the endless scope of our imagination and whatever we're able to create, we're going to ground you and we're going to create rules in this new universe. And Dune does that perfectly.
Perfectly said. Yeah. Oh, God. Just the fact that getting onto the swords and shields thing is, I think I said this in the beginning of the story of the world building, something that what I love about it is how future and backwards it is.
Yep.
Of so many different elements of, this is the far galactic future, and yet we're back down to feudalism as a governmental structure. We have spaceships and all these things, spaceships and high technology and lasers, but we don't have computers, and we navigate by like just a bunch of high people, like just doing lines of coke, figuring out the way through. We have, you have lasers, guns, artillery, atomics, all these major weapons, but soldiers still fight majority with swords and shields. Going through the list of like what is it's just the fact that we're brought back down to this story basically being a global jihad, a religious conquest across the galaxy. Yeah. Going like, we've seen this before. I don't know. It's so backwards. And I love it. I love that aspect of everything seems so futuristic, yet so behind for us historically. Like us today in our civilization are more advanced than the people of Dune. Or we like to pretend we are. That's, I think, the more message of it is this is a cycle. It's just another step on theirs. We're in the same thing. We're no different. We just could see it a little easier with them.
Damn. You guys didn't expect To the Ramble to get a little serious, did you? A little insightful. No one comes for that. They're like, can these two shitheads just go back to like the stupid humor?
Just give us another tier list of cool covers.
Dude, by the way, cover-wise, this cover, that's an S tier.
That is top. That is S tier.
This cover is
want
awesome.
Here's your tier list at the end of the video. Austin, pull it up.
All right.
Dune, S tier. There you go.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.